Hi, everyone. Welcome to our next session today. And I am so happy and blessed to know this Delisa, this amazing human who's going to be sharing empowering education leaders and navigating that path to success. So, Delisa, can you tell us about yourself and give us some insight as to how we move forward as leaders?
Yes, so, I mean, you covered who I am. I'm a leadership coach a little bit, but my background comes from being in the military, almost 14 years. I was in the Army, in the Navy, led teams, went on tour, and from there, I also worked in corporate, and I worked with CEOs, VPs in the C-suite. So although I was their administrative assistant, if you guys know anything, it's like they're the ones that have to manage all the other aspects of their lives. So you get to learn leadership real quick if you don't know it at that point, right? And prioritization. And yeah, from that, being a parent, as many of you guys are already, and or you're teaching. And so now I have my daughter, and moving into that, expanding my leadership based as well as on top of my humanities degree and my postgrad and as a researcher, I really wanted to understand education and like leadership in education. What does this mean? How, I looked at what was the best school in our community. I did that. I was that parent that went on to like figure out who's in the top 10. I did. Yeah. And then like there was like one school that like was out of our area that was like, why can't she get in there? What does she need? Like I did all of those things. So now, based on not only my experience, my educational background, uh, now I started implementing leadership in the home as a parental leader. And once my daughter started going to school, of course, things are adjusting because that's how it is. And now I started seeing shifts, transformations in myself, in my daughter, learning how to collaborate. These are some of the topics we're going to be talking about, not only with myself, with others, with my daughter, and understanding, standing, not understanding, but standing on our values, teaching that and ethical like leadership because I'm the parent and I'm also the educator because my daughter was homeschooled is homeschooled, right? I pulled her out from the school due to circumstance and homeschooling her. So today, really, what you're getting is not only someone that has the certifications, but also the experience and something that I also apply in my home, as well as when I work with other clients, there's that tangible results.
That's so amazing. And your daughter learning from you, like not only what you've done, but as a publisher, as developing these programs, what she gets to bear witness in you as her mentor and primary, um, you know,
Yes,
like
yes.
you said,
Great way to
primary
put it.
leader in her life. And it's just really magical because I've seen her mature and grow as you've shown your journey. And she's so cute and so well spoken and just very, like you can tell in her attitude,
Mhm.
which is really parents need more guidance. They don't realize the influence. And um, so what kind of strategies can you share to, because I think the role of educator also is
Mhm.
changing. Um,
Yes,
there's a lot of blurry lines, like parents are also educators.
yes.
We're also all creators. So
Mhm.
how do we cross over?
Well, that's a big topic, but I will definitely narrow it down into little bite-sized pieces for all of us because we could go on for days here. But one of the, as you mentioned, right, there's that blurry line that's happening right now, and everyone has, well, most people have heard about, parents being the first educator, which is true, and the most consistent educator because we are with these children, our children, for years, like literally years, some of them 2 decades
It's
and
nonstop.
more. Yeah, it's
Well,
nonstop.
even in college and university, there's bigger, but they're
Yeah,
still
yeah.
young. They still need to develop. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, like, once we have that mindset as parents that we are the first educators, and then those who are teachers. So, I have taught leadership. I have taught like mostly in the military, but I've also taught outside in workshops at nonprofits. So, my teaching experience in that really had to look at how to communicate with uh, my students as well as with their parents, right? Because there is that, as you mentioned, there's a blurred line right now. And so I had to approach, well, first of all, I had to see myself as a leader. And if you're in any leadership position, that's the first thing you need to do. Recognize you are a leader. And as a leader, you are influencing those in your sphere of influence. The second step is recognizing what type of leader should I be? And earlier I talked about being the transformative leader. And a transformative leader is when you wake up every day and you recognize that your words, your actions, your thoughts, all of those things are transforming others, either for including yourself, either positively or negatively. And when you recognize that, when you get into the classroom, when you walk into your home, wherever that is, you recognize that these children are absorbing not only your thoughts of them, but also the spoken life giving words. And then you will start seeing transformation right away within a week. Why? Because now their confidence is built, their self esteem has grown, and they start realizing, hey, they will come and ask a question, they'll start testing. Is this really true? How are you going to respond when I say this or that? And, depending on your response, not your reaction, that's how they start evolving. That's how they start transforming, and the bond gets stronger. But for parents and educators, that means working together harmoniously in alignment for the betterment of the child or the children.
I think you really got it. Something that spoke to me about your personality type and just having my experience working with youth at risk and challenge, some of the challenging types, the ones that were able to step up, they needed a safe space, someone to go to who isn't judgmental,
Mhm.
someone that they just can express themselves and troubleshoot and focus on solutions and not kind of berate them like, you shouldn't do that. Uh,
Yeah.
but like, oh, most often than not, they realize where they went wrong. It's, where do they go from there? And having those mentors in your life where you can, because they don't have a lot of life experience
Mhm.
when they're younger, or even as adults, if we've never been in that leadership role, it's all just new.
Mhm.
So I find it very inspirational that you said that, and it's a big culture shift I think we have to embrace.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, before we came on live, I was mentioning to you that, I just did some upgrading, like for team coaching to work with parents and educators, right? Not only just speaking, but hosting the workshops and coaching them specifically. And the trend that's really happening now, this massive shift, especially with homeschooling expanding, not just in North America, but internationally, is that now parents are looking for mentors and coaches for their children that are either in the public school system or private school system, even if they are homeschooled. And the reason why they're looking for the coaches, why they're looking for the mentor, and this field of like preteen, teenager kind of route, or age, I should say. The reason why they're looking for that is because they recognize that their mindset, their self-esteem, their confidence in themselves, how to lead, especially if they are, you know, uh, the captain of one of their teams, or they're into sports, or even if they want to um, start their own business, whatever it is. Parents are recognizing from this shift the value and the importance of mentorship and coaching. And they're saying, well, I can't really do this right now, but I have a coach. So now I need my children to have a coach, because if they're the future, I need them to know how to lead, how to stand in the midst of it.
Absolutely. And the training, you're doing a lot of training in mental health essentially, and how and guiding people on how to I guess, tackle what comes their way. And for educators, it's never like having done the traditional and seeing the unschooling, the other side of everything in industry. Um, there isn't training in mental health. And whatever the hiccup that is, the training is so it's just it's useless, and it's not practical. And so we have to really, and people aren't born knowing how to deal with mental health or born knowing how to guide or coach. And
Mhm.
um so it's great to have like some guidance on that, because it's a very complex thing that can be developed though, and can be simplified with the right coach.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I agree, especially when it comes to transformational leadership. And if you're an educator and you're a parent, yes, there's tons of other leadership styles and you can utilize that outside of the home. But one of the biggest ones that you really want to have massive impact on is as a transformational leader with your children, or if you're in the classroom with your students, because when they transform, they understand who they are, they know themselves, and they become more confident. I would give a very good example with this. When Faith was going to school at the time, in order for the children to start, decompressing, and this happens a lot in a lot of the private schools, they put on very specific music throughout the day. And at certain times of the day, they will have music, just background music on, so that the children now starts decompressing. They're not decompressing in like in a bad way, but really just calming them, and then activating their creativity and their mind, opening it up for whatever they're going to be taught in that time frame. And you will get, the children of course get much success rate with that. I'm not making this stuff up. You could even just Google this, like you could Google this, even though I don't recommend Google for like research, but this
But
is a
no, there
fact.
is there is
Yeah,
something to sound, environment.
yeah.
There are so many factors that you can consider. Sorry, that one of the struggles of homeschooling little voices. um, I'll come. I'm okay. I'm coming in a second. But yeah, there's so many things that we can impact ourselves and our children, and increasing awareness is so important, because people don't naturally think of that at the top of
Mhm.
their minds. So
Yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. And then, of course, the next step, as after being transformational, if you need to step out for a second, don't worry. You can like turn off, and I will keep going. Okay, don't worry about
just
it.
muting the background cartoons.
It's all good. Don't you worry. Um, is being a collaborative leadership, partnership leadership, and style. And this isn't talked about. It's brushed on. We hear about it. We don't fully understand it. Well, we all need to collaborate. Doesn't matter if you work a 9 to 5, you have your own business, you are a mompreneur, you're homeschooling. You need to collaborate because we all need support, myself included. And being a leader and using collaborative style, that style of leadership, really opens you up to being able to listening is the key piece here, where transformational is more of a doing, is more active. Collaborative is also active, but because of the listening, it's a bit more passive, but you're still acting, right? But you have to listen because now you're hearing the other sides. And then once you start collaborating with others, it becomes easier for you as the leader to take yourself out of the situation, get that bird's eye view, right? The bird's eye view to really see what's happening and to take all the points and put it together harmoniously. So this is why I was saying, yes, it is active, but not as active as transformation, because transformational style, you're doing something, right? There is like, yeah, you're actively creating an environment, you're cultivating a space, you're making massive shifts within a person. That's that transformational style. And collaborative style, there is shifts that's happening, But when you're working with a team, a collaborative team, or even in your home with your family, you have to start taking that bird's eye view and then some people like to call it what do they call it? Compromise. I
It's a
call it
challenge for
collaborating.
many. Well, in the education system, it's not really, even though you're in a building with people, it's not a natural thing for educators as much as I would have, you know, because originally my background's in mental health and then I went into education, but I noticed that I was actually pretty surprised at how they have find so many challenges around that. So it's really great to see a shift in that too, because it takes a village to raise a child, no
Mhm.
matter what. We don't
Yes.
all have the skills. And plus our children have so many different personalities. They naturally gravitate to certain personality types or certain they go to one person for one reason, one person for another, and to
100%.
satisfy certain needs.
Mhm. 100%. 100%. And this is the thing. Like as you start using the various styles, like and I share this a lot when I host webinars or doing videos or even coaching. Yes, we each have a predominant leadership style because we're all leaders, regardless. Like we all have to be able to lead ourselves. Like, we have it in us to be leaders, right? It's up to us to either develop it or not. And it starts within you. You got to lead yourself first. But each one of us will gravitate toward a particular leadership style, even if we're followers and we have a leader that we want to follow, whatever that style is, that's what we're most dominant in. However, we cannot neglect the various styles because various situation calls for different things. Yeah,
So
and that is important to note because whenever you are working with anyone or teaching in the classroom or at home, uh, it you need to be flexible. And once you understand the leadership styles, that flexibility and adaptability, once you understand what is asked of you, you can quickly transition from one to the next to give your children, your students, what they need in that moment to support them. And it may seem like very hard, like, how can I do this? But it becomes natural. It's as natural as breathing once you are comfortable and you have developed this skill.
and then when you're around people like you, other, people
Yeah.
that are mentoring and transforming within themselves, it starts to become easier.
Yes. 100% it becomes easier. And what you will start seeing is as you're shifting from transformational to um, collaborative, you start recognizing, because remember, you're collaborating not necessarily with students or children, but you're collaborating with your peers, you're collaborating with your partner, right?
Mhm.
You are working with them because you are that area of expertise. If you have a school, your own school, and you have to learn how to collaborate with every single one, partner with your staff, partner with the parents, because when you build a community, and this is essential, once you build that community, you become a strong, solid force. Exactly what you're doing, Jeanette. You are building a community and you're seeing, yes, you have, support in these areas, but it's also a tough, hard, like journey. Sometimes you're tired. You're just like, I'm tired. And sometimes it feels extremely lonely,
Mhm.
even though you have people around and you have support around. But this is what it takes, and yet still you are transforming leaders, you're transforming others, you're shifting perspective just from your leadership, and you're also incorporating collaboration and partnerships with so many of us so that we can lead our homes and raise lions, right, in this next generation, raise the leaders of the next generation.
Oh, absolutely. And those foundational skills and parent people need to realize too, you don't need to be perfect.
Yes,
Just try your best because kids notice, and other adults notice your there's a sometimes a big fixation on being perfect or being it's
yes.
not authentically human to be that.
No,
Kids notice basic things. It like I would have kids tell me like, "Oh, miss, you get along with everyone." I'm like, "Well, you have to try your best. It's never going to be perfect." But they're just very observant of how you carry yourself and even like they notice what you wear. A lot of young
yes,
ladies were very like, you're stylish, but you're always covered up." I'm like,
yeah, yeah.
well, though there are conversations about leadership around like presence and, like these small little things about, just appropriateness, um,
Well,
and
I just
what
had
you
a
wanna,
webinar
you know,
in February, literally like a week and a half ago or something like that. Yeah, week and a half, on how to speak like Churchill, stand like Lincoln. Now, in this book, yeah,
that.
I based it off the webinar was based off of this book, loosely based off the book, and but in the book, there's so many example of women who was in this leadership and ex-slaves, and all of these other people like around the world, and they were showing these different styles. And as you said, yes, there is this whole way of the colors that you're wearing, how you're speaking, well, tone, huge. Tone is huge. Your words are so important. I even tell my daughter all the time. Sometimes she'll be like, "Oh, and I said, "But you know what? I don't accept what you're saying. You need to change your vocabulary." Why? Well, because and then I said, well, because you have to change it, because you can't just use one word, because you are not willing to stretch yourself, to grow, to um to understand what different words mean.
Mhm,
I can only do so much. You need to like pick up the rest. And when I used to tell her that a lot, sometimes I still say that. And it's not a bad thing, right? We need to guide our children. This is part of guiding our children so they can grow.
mhm.
When I'm watching something on TV, I don't really watch much. I watch mostly the cooking channel. It soothes me sometimes to watch it. But I say there was like a movie on TV or something, and I put it on, um, and they bleep out the words. She'll be like, "Oh, these people can't speak because they're using like bad words, right?" Because
When the student becomes the master.
yeah, and then she would turn to me and say, "So why are you watching this if they can't speak properly?"
She's writing annotated notes about their grammar.
We're laughing about this because it's funny. I do laugh at that time, but then I'm forced to change it. You know why? Because I'm like, why am I listening to something that they're not even speaking properly, right?
But it's important to note because there's so much power in it. And even connecting with others, like everybody has a different, just something different they bring to the table. I know like working in some rougher areas, some of the families are immigrant families. Maybe they didn't have the tools, or some of the tools that they have that work in their country may not adapt as well in a certain, depending. So you kind of have to, and even intonation, the way like some cultures
Yeah,
communicate. And it's just, and it's not a bad thing. It's just, it's one of those awareness, right? And what environments, okay, environments and, like just being aware, like where you are, who you're speaking with, how you can adjust according to the outcome that you want, I guess.
absolutely. I agree 100%. And it's good to have that awareness of, the different cultures and the different places, because sometimes you might think, well, this sounds a particular way, but really you have to, this is where listening comes in, being able to listen. What are they actually saying? don't get offended, don't get take it personally. And a lot of the and majority of the times, I'll say like 99.99% of the time as a leader, you have to take that bird's eye view. Actually, I would say 100% of the time, you have to take that bird's eye view. And once you get that bird's eye view, then you don't feel personally attacked when someone says something. You don't feel like, well, I've done my best. Like you don't do that. You don't feel that way, right? You recognize maybe I feel this way, but then you're like, okay, what are they actually trying to say, or what is the result or the ideal that needs to be fulfilled? And then once you get to the core of it, it becomes so much easier. Uh, and you start harmonizing and aligning together because you're focused on the ideal, the ultimate outcome. And so it takes practice and time and work to be able to get to that. However, you can still start today. It's the first step is being aware of that and being aware of, what is the ultimate goal, what it is that what is the ideal, and then strive for that ideal, go towards that ideal, and recognize that on that journey you will need to pivot, you might need to pause, you may need to take a little bit of a detour, and that's normal and it's absolutely natural. And that also leads to, you actually lead us right into the ethical leadership style.
Oh, absolutely. And just touching on a point that you had mentioned, the whole like people do sometimes become defensive around when it comes to that change part. It's that kind of like that hump of recognizing and realizing it's not about being judgmental, judged by others or being judgmental on yourself. It's about, you know, kind of like when the healing process, you kind of have to be pulled apart to be put back together. And so just being open-minded, I guess. Like
Mhm.
it's okay to, but being aware of the defensiveness and trying to, you know, work through that tough part, getting better at it as you
Mhm.
start
Yeah,
to improve so that it's a more graceful process for you, which I think
yeah,
supports your mental health too as you evolve, because we don't stop evolving, do we?
no, we're ever evolving, and it's a beautiful thing. Sometimes it seems challenging, but it's still, so it's such a beautiful thing. I will share with Faith. I'm in meetings sometimes, you meet people, you talk with people, and some people are like, oh wow, Faith is this. Like, yeah, she's doing her thing. She understands, what she wants. Um, and they were like, how do you know she's going to do this? Like, at a certain age. And I said, you have to pay attention, like when you come online. One, she's on there, but not as much. So it's making sure that there is that balance because at the end of the day, she's still a child. The other part is we are focused on the virtues. Virtues are ever evolving and growing. And at different stage in our lives, we adopt different virtues. So, and she is focused on her message, when she's focused on a virtue, which for the last how many years has been kindness, and it has expanded, and she has experienced how kindness affects not herself but others because she has been in some serious situation with bullying. Um, then this is where the community starts to build. This is where you start building the leadership in your children. So, am I worried about, oh, what's going to happen at 12? Or maybe, and a lot of branding people will say, well, kids grow up. Yeah, they do. But if we're focused on the virtues, on cultivating them for who they are and recognizing where they're at and really highlighting those pieces, doesn't matter what they're doing, but really focused on those areas, they would always have a purpose and a message. And they would always stay true to themselves. And in the even when moments when situations arise and they're in a situation where you may not feel is ideal, they will pause because why? You focused on the virtues. And then they would remember who they are. They will remember themselves and then come back and say, oh, you know what? I can't be here right now. I need to, backup. I need a moment. I need a break. Right. And I share this because I'm seeing it happening in real time. And I also see it with my clients, but I share the real time piece in my own personal life because it is important. I don't want people to think that I'm not using what I'm saying in my own life and in my own home. I do. And then my daughter calls me out if I don't. So there you go.
That's the thing. Oh, they pounce like little pumas when they catch you in okay, here. Oh, look at that. What's that?
Yes, absolutely. They do pounce and catch you in those moments. And then this is where our ethics, our morals, our values come into play because they're watching you. And like the same way she called me out, why are you watching? Why are you watching people saying bad words that can't speak? Right?
That's hilarious. But I love how you kind of touched on some of the bullying and some of the conversations and virtues being so evolving because um uh, like to say that a child or a person will never be bullied is not realistic. But the
Right.
response to the whole scenario, your response can really set the pace in ethical leadership because when someone attempts to kind of come at you maybe inappropriately, you will know how to set boundaries and, push those healthy relationship kind of goals.
Yes.
And what are some ways that we can do that in ourselves and in others?
Yeah, well, one, that you said it clearly, boundaries. We must know our boundaries. What are we willing to accept um, and not accept? And I understand we are all on different levels here. And some people are like, well, I'm a people pleaser and I want to make sure to please people. We got to start setting boundaries. And if you need support, there is so much resources out there. There are so many people that specializes in this. Get the support, reach out. Because you're doing yourself. You remember you're investing in you. And when you invest in you, you become healthier, you become stronger, you can live that fruitful life. Whatever that fruitful life means for you, but you're going to live that life. So, boundaries is key. Once we have those boundaries, the next step is to our values. What do you value? I know this is something that is not talked about as much, our values and our morals. And many moons ago, when I think you and I were, well, when I was in school, and I think also when you were in school, we had like the civics class, right? Or they didn't, I think they call it civics class. I can't remember what they call it now. And this was in elementary school, right? Or citizenship. They
Oh,
had like,
yes.
yeah,
That
like
was high school. No, or we had some different classes.
yeah. Yeah, high school had like the citizens class, but then in the elementary school, in the school that I went to specifically, they had like these citizenship thing. They didn't call it citizenship, they called it something else. But either way, it was like, holding on to your values. What are you going to stand up for? And those aspects in ethical leadership. Remember, others are watching you. You are also watching you. In those times when no one is seeing you, this is where your morals, your values, they come into play. And those things help build your character. And your character gives you the strength that you need to set the boundaries. Your character underestimated. This is underestimated in 2024, I believe, especially in the last few years. Your character really is one of the main foundational pieces in you as a leader, as a parent, as a person, really. Just your character. What type of character do you have?
And
Uh,
I think the last few years has really highlighted some of the toxicity.
mhm.
And I had asked a HR professional, I'm like, can we just like get rid of the people politics? She's like, no, it's not, that's not realistic. But she had mentioned that there was a study that, the water cooler, how people kind of joined together in this toxic negativity, and she said that it kind of like people feel like they actually are motivated to do it, like they are pulled in that direction. And it's important to kind of counter that pull to make sure that people are actually drawn to the positive, and how
Mhm.
we're kind of setting these environments that are more positive and ethical. Because I was surprised how um I'll send you the study when I come across it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was just very surprised that toxicity was just like one of the main issues in leadership and and teams, which
Yes.
is like doesn't set that positive tone for, developing virtues and boundaries, and it's pretty much
Well,
anti.
most people don't recognize it, and I'm glad you brought that up. One second. I'm glad you brought that up, especially when you're in leadership, a leadership position. You see yourself as a leader, um, because there is like a whole psychological study. I couldn't say the word, sorry, on this. It talks about psychological manipulation and how a lot of leaders manipulate people, right? People that are they take advantage, and their techniques. And I actually, this author Emery Green, he wrote a book on this, and it's the darker side of leadership. And it's a very small book, and he doesn't go like too intense into like the narcissism and all those things, but he touches on them. But he really shows how someone that we can view as good based on how they treat us in the beginning, based on how they're looking, based on, oh, are our values aligned, and then how they can take that and manipulate it when they are in this power position to serve themselves instead of really the whole. So there is the leadership, but then there's this other aspect of it as well. And to understand this, um, especially as a leader, it will help you to see when someone is coming from a self-serving position, and then you can respond accordingly and not be sucked in, or be gullible into what they're serving, right? And what they're putting out there. And I did this for my own studies, but this is, it's important for me to learn. And the reason why it's important for me to learn is because I work with a lot of women, I work with a lot of children, well, youth, and girls. And yes, we are still in a very male dominated world and environment and space. And, you know, it's shifting, but change takes time.
Mhm.
So they have to be able to recognize, especially when they're going into certain leadership roles, positions into bigger companies or not. How are they going to stand, speak, and recognize this other aspect of leadership, that domineering piece, that authoritative piece, that while is helpful during certain situations,
Mhm.
it can also be extremely dangerous.
Absolutely, and it's shifting away. You can dive into a whole bunch of,
Yeah.
like, if
Yes.
you're a female going into a male dominated industry,
Yes.
the way you present or the way you interact would be different than like a female dominated industry. Like education does tend to
Yes.
be more at younger ages than older, but um there's also like certain personality traits that come within these, under these umbrellas that you kind of take into consideration. And like you said, change takes time, and breaking those old patterns of, having more female come come up, togetherness.
Yes.
Sometimes females have been divisive in the past, and just shifting that so we're lifting each other up. Um, it's like there's so many things to consider. But I do want to, because it's almost time for the next session, but I want to make sure,
Mhm.
like, how do people contact you for, like, what are some of your offerings? How can people connect with you? Like, what's your process and stuff so that people, and I definitely encourage you guys to connect with her. She is just an amazing soul. So,
Yeah, well, for the people that are watching, my free gift, and I'll share this with you after with the links and stuff, Jeanette. But faithandsparklesworld.com. You go on there, we have the website. It takes you through all of my offerings on the page. It takes you through what my daughter Faith with her children's book is we're doing, as well as all of the services that we have, like, and what I do. So in terms of coaching as a leadership coach, I have a 3-month program, a 6-month program. I even have a 90-minute strategy call. And the reason why I do this is because I recognize that this is going to take time. I am not here to lie to you and tell you it's going to take 30 days. It's not. You will see change in 30 days, but the real change happens in that 90-day period, that consistent work. Because remember, we have to shift your mindset from where you are, and we have to start putting in all the actionable things. The next piece is so what I offer to you guys is a free 30-minute call, as well as I have a free resource that I will share with you. It's a leadership outline that you guys can download. You'll be able to download and fill out the forms and ask the questions to yourself. And then when you're finished with that, you're like, okay, I'm ready. Yeah, I'm good. I can, yeah, I want to connect with you. I need to go deeper. I need to know more. You can schedule that call with me, and I'll also share my free ebook, The Transformational Leader. It's an exceptional resource for you, not only to read. It's a very short read, about 3 or 4 pages, but a necessary read, especially in this field of education.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a lot of different price points for those that, maybe having some challenges during these tough economic times. Delisa has like packages where, there is less commitment and more commitment, depending on how you want to approach and tackle the growth in your life. So, and so
And we also do payment plans too. So it's, because I completely understand how it goes.
Yeah, but so there's options. So there's your journey can start whenever you are even just drawn. You're never going to be completely ready, but Delisa will be there
Yes.
holding
I
your hand with a warm smile.
Yes, yes. And follow us on Faith and Sparkles World.
Yeah.
Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook. Um, and the other channels, the YouTube channels. You will get significant value.
Mhm.
Join our email list. We send out emails about 3 times a week. Really encouraging, inspiring. It's not here to sell you anything. Sometimes we let you know what we offer or if we have sales, but predominantly it's about sharing the value for you so you can start implementing in your lives to get results. At the end of the day, I want you to reach your ideal. I want you to get results.
Absolutely. Those little nuggets that come into my email box.
Yes.
I look
And
forward to
that's good.
reading your
That's so good.
inspiration.
And Faith is on there, and Faith has a little message. So Jeanette, you will play that for them after, because I know, like, she wanted to share it. Yes, she didn't want to come online. She's like, Mom, can I rest today? I'm like, okay. So yesterday, yeah, last night we did the video, and she's like, this is what I want to say. Does it sound good? I'm like, yes. And there we go. So really share from a child's perspective how they see themselves, because this is how she sees herself. And so if she sees herself like this, I'm very confident the children in your classroom, the children in your home, they're feeling that way too.
Yes, and the adults.
And the adults, yes, yes, yes.
So, thank you everyone for watching, and be sure to check out faithandsparklesworld.com. Everything is there, all the points of contact, and it'll be in this description below. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Faith from Faith and Sparkles World. Kids can lead too. You lead by believing yourself, trusting your God, and helping your parents. Teachers and parents, I need your help for the future. Future leaders are children. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. Bye from Faith. You are victorious.